Welcome to Gabby's Art Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to create a few more prints and create some stencils and play with some different colours. So what I've done in the past, I often just play around with my gel plates, which are these things over here. And if you have a look at some of my other videos, I have got a gel plate where I've used it and you roll up the ink and you can press all sorts of things on it. But today what I thought I'd do is I'd explore some papers that I haven't really used in print. So I had a few that I was looking at, and I don't throw anything out just to see, you know, what I can do with them later on. So these are just some of the ones that I took prints off using a gel plate that was using leaves, and then doing the positive and the negative, which I quite like. So today I thought I would explore this one here. I kind of like the complementaries of the gold and the purple on this one. It was just using acrylics. I rolled it up on the gel plate and basically took a little print. But I've got quite a lot of these papers, including some of these ones that I did with detergent and putting a little bit of colour dye in it and then blowing bubbles and allowing it to pop on the paper. And as you can see, there's some interesting things, and that's just using an onion bag. So just looking at textures, I'm loving the fact that I can really explore textures, and sometimes things don't come to mind as to what I can do, but I don't throw anything out. I reuse it when I can. So I have a few stencils here. I just thought I might explore a few. Not necessarily use the whole lot. You might want to use it on a diagonal, or you might want to use a section of it, or you might even want to overlap them as well. And you can get these stencils at any craft shop. And they're very inexpensive. You get about 5 or 6 in a packet. So I think I'll use this one here, and I'm looking at the possible colours, and I'm thinking maybe go for a bit of a lavender with a bit of pink. So the paints I'm using today are Global paints. I'm just going to put a little bit of white in here. See what happens. And tiny bit of purple just to change the colour. That's it, just a drop. Don't need a lot of colour to change it. And a touch of the magenta, which is one of my favourite colours. Just a drop. Okay, let's see what happens. Alright, so I just put a little bit of water in here, just because the paint is quite thick. And as you can see, getting quite a nice colour. I thought of going completely white, but I think it'll be a little bit too white. Too brilliant, so just toning it down with a little bit of purple. Just going to test it a bit. That doesn't look too bad. I might just put a drop of purple again. Increase the tonal value. Okay. Sometimes if you're doing a lot of stencils, it's a good idea to do a big batch of the stuff, but I'm just going to have a play. Oh, I kind of like that colour, maybe a bit more pink. And this is the fun thing about just playing with all sorts of textures and not really having a final resolved work of art. Artists often get obsessed with having resolved works of art. I'm not one of them. I quite like exploring, and sometimes I get really bored and just move on. Okay, so I've just cut a piece of sponge. You can have, it's just a sponge from a sponge I had in the laundry that I used to wash my car. So try and use whatever you've got around the house. The stencils I've had for a while. Okay, so you can just dab this on gently. Now you might want to make it really thick, or you might think, okay, well I'm going to leave it a little bit. I don't want it. I want the gold to come through in some sections. And the other thing is that you can play with the colour as well. So So you might want to, so I've done that, you might want to just grab a brush and you know, put some more texture in it by scraping some of the areas out and around to create a bit more. That looks quite interesting in there, so it's not thick texture. You can scrape it out a lot more if you want to. I'm just playing to see if I can see. I like it here because you can see the gold. So you can lift it if you wish. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's great with high school students. I'm a high school teacher, and so I have a lot of students that are not necessarily on a university pathway with me, but we're looking at alternative programs to keep the students engaged. And you know, they often have this perception, oh, I'm not very good at art, I can't draw. And I teach them to create textures and to look at nature and to collect ideas, and it seems to work. They seem to really like doing this. And then we just take it a step further. So with these students, we did a lot of textual experimentation and a little bit of teaching on colours and colour wheels. And some of them are starting to apply it to some of their graffiti art, which is quite exciting to see that finally some of the information I'm teaching is actually getting through to the students and they're applying it. I don't know if they realise they're doing it, but they are, and it's fantastic. So it's just a lot of fun. There's no rules. It's whatever you like. So I'm actually going to lift that now. And there you go. That's quite nice. It's a lovely print. You can wait for it to dry. You can add another layer to it. Obviously, if I had sometimes you have to get the paint consistency correct because it's starting to bleed. But I mean, I could work back into that with a brush if I wanted to make them nice and straight. So I might just try and see if I can do that in some areas. So you can do that if you wish. But I quite like the ragged edge. It's all about being, you know, stencil. It's all about being unpredictable. You really don't know what you're going to get. And I'm starting to think, well, maybe that colour wasn't a great choice. Perhaps I should have used a darker purple. So I might try another one and give it another go. So that's just one that you can do. And you keep building layers. It actually doesn't look too bad at all. I didn't think a lot about the colour, but if you're doing this and showing people how to do this, or you want to do it at home, just play around with the colours, have several shots at it. So that might be one that I might reuse for something else later on. So I'm going to get another piece now that I can see. Okay, this one here. So this has got, this is again a print of an onion bag. And I quite like that. So I've got my stencil here, but I'm going to use a different stencil for this one here. It has 4 different stencils. So it's this one here. And I might decide to increase the intensity of the purple just a little bit. So just put a little bit more colour there. Yep, as you can see. And this time I might just think about what I'd like to put. Do I want something a bit more delicate, or do I want something, so I kind of like this one here. So I might just paint it on and see what happens really briskly, so I'm not covering everything. Leave it. Okay, have a look at it. There we go. That's quite nice. You might want to balance it up. You may not need to use all of it, but just sections of the stencil might be quite good. Okay, and up. Yeah, that was applied a little bit too thickly, but as you can see, we're getting some pretty things happening on this particular piece. it seems to work better than the other piece, I find. There's not as much contrast because we don't have as much darkness and the piece is quite light, but you can certainly add, I'm going to actually do something a little bit experimental, see what happens. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to pour a little bit of paint on there, and with my smaller brush get into the smaller areas and see what happens. Sponging is definitely easier because you're pushing the sponge down, it's absorbing the paint and then pushing it, whereas this one seems to be a little bit harder, and this purple seems to be a little bit translucent also than what I wanted. Okay. Now you can do multicolours if you wish. You can put a couple of colours down. Okay, so let's lift it. Oh, it's interesting. Okay, so that's kind of interesting, and then you can start thinking about your design. Getting my paper a little bit dirty there. You might decide, okay, I might do one. Oops, that's what I shouldn't have done. Smudged it a little bit. You probably should wait. I'm being a bit impatient. Should wait till it dries. So if I go this way, like so, and just paint in here, lift some of the paint, and just in a circular motion, you'll be able to get into tiny little areas and transfer the stencil on. So you don't need a lot of paint. Okay, so you can do all sorts of things. I mean, I can continue doing this and working back into it. Okay, I might even decide, well, I'm just sort of a bit reluctant because this is quite wet. Hang on. What I might do is I might see if I can just lift it with a piece of paper, and this is what you can do when it's a bit too... I'm just going to do this to see what happens. I might wreck this, but anyway. Hey ho, have a go. Okay. Ooh, that looks pretty cool. Reverse print. Printing's so much fun. You can do all sorts of things. So you can continue. As you can see, I've done 2 prints. That doesn't look too bad once it's drying up now with and I think it is better than white. You can do something that's a darker background to see how you go. You can work back into it with some pencil later on, but I'm just going to use my frames, which I always use, just to show you that you can, you know, frame little areas up like so, or move it around and find things that work for you. That's kind of nice. Make them into a card, print them out, take a photo, all sorts of things. And then the other one is one I've cut up, which I use a lot. This one here, it's just a frame, but I've cut it up so that I can just use whatever section I really want to. So I move it around to see what I like. See, this area here I think is a little bit empty. I probably would need to work back into that area for my liking. I kind of like it a little bit busy like this. That's quite interesting. So as you can see, you can do all sorts of things, and you then can get your art lines, and you can outline them in all the different colours, or you can apply some gold. I might even put some gold over the top of it and see how it goes. So for today's session, I've just shown you how to use some old printed paper that I was going to throw out, and then just add some stencils to it and see what happens. So you can keep working on it and you know, keep adding as much as you like. So these are some of the other ones that I have taken. What I might do is I might just quickly show you how to do one just on plain paper while these dry. So I've been using just watercolour paper. I find that that's best, the watercolour paper. So I might just do that. and we might just use a sponge and have some fun with it. Now, it might be a little bit thick. Now you might want to layer some colour, so what I might do is I might drizzle some pink and see what happens here. I'll pick it up with a sponge. And this might be an absolute disaster, but we'll wait and see. You can make your own stencils if you wish. That's an option as well. Now I'm going to put a little bit of purple as well, just to see. Okay. Okay, we'll wait and see what happens here. So I'm going to peel it off, and there you go. It's actually quite light. So if I was doing this again, I would probably put more colour. But if you want something that's subtle over the top of an existing print, like say, for instance, this one here, I've got a gold print that I took a few weeks ago and I was exploring different leaves, see what happened. I might do that. Actually, I might do 3, just see what happens. Hang on, which way to go? Decisions. Okay, here we go. So because it is gold, I'm going to try purple. So purple, if I'm teaching this to students, is a complementary to the goldy orange. I might just do that. Now sometimes, because this is a metallic paint, it is a little bit difficult to go over the top of it. It's not picking up. I can see here that it's actually not picking up. Don't know if you can see that. I'll just move it up a bit. It's not picking up the paint. Okay. Okay, that might have destroyed it. Oh well. Okay, that's pretty cool. My hands are pretty dirty at the moment, so that's pretty cool. That looks quite nice. Would make an interesting little, I'll just get my little thing out. Still wet, just to show you. Okay. And I'd continue working on that, you know. I think the purple and the gold is actually quite delightful with a print of a leaf through that from previous. So don't throw anything out, just use everything. I'm going to keep all of this, and I'll probably come back with some spray paints and try that as well. So just have fun. That's my philosophy, is continue to create and just continue to have fun all the time. There is no right or wrong in art making. It's all about the process. It's all about making mistakes and feeling comfortable about them, and what may be a mistake to you is probably a work of art to somebody else. Thanks for watching. Give us a like.